Hello and welcome to another episode of the Vialle MX post-race show. We are back because 2025 Monster Energy AMA Supercross is back. And thankfully, we do have a title fight on our hands because 450SX has been reignited thanks to a Chase Sexton victory and a Cooper Webb non-podium finish. But we'll get into all of that on this episode of the Vialle MX post-race show, and of course, our ability to analyse the races and get into all that happened in Birmingham's protective stadium is made possible thanks to Decal Works, Yamaha Motor USA, Yoshimura, MotoX and Fox Racing. We'll have more from those people in a little while, but for now I'm your host, Lewis Phillips, as per, joined by Michael Lindsay. Hello, how are you?
Hello. I'm actually surprised I'm still here. I just
still here, like
finished what?
Well,
I just no, I just finished watching a interview that you did with a Mr. Chase Sexton. He seemed to greatly prefer the opinions and thoughts of Adam and Technap, so I thought you would maybe pull a coup and off me for Adam.
Well, there was a very big Lewis compliment in that interview, so I choose to focus on that.
Oh, I don't.
Okay, and also he rejected me because I tried to give him my own. You shined as bright as he's cut me off.
Yeah, that was about as corny as it gets.
Well, you don't know what the finisher was going to be.
What was it?
I don't know. I didn't actually have
like
one.
Like a diamond?
No, that's why it works though, because he cut me off at the right time because I didn't actually have anything, and I was like, this is where. But happy to have that back. And of course, Chase Sexton was in better spirits because he won in I'd say a commanding fashion. Of course, the final main event maybe skews it slightly, but 1-1 in the first two, fastest qualifier by quite a way, and then the second half of the final main event was enough of a statement where it wasn't like Webb worked him. So a commanding win, I think I can say. What about you?
I guess I use the term mature, mostly because of the third and final race. As soon as I saw Webb out front, knowing the math that, no matter what, Webb was not going to be not only winning or even getting on the podium with that score, there was the initial reaction of like, oh, please, Chase, don't go for the win. There's no need necessary. And yeah, he learned from his last Triple Crown experience to we're in a championship hunt. And I'm also quite shocked because, we had our weekend off. So go back 2 weeks. Me and you both sat here. Well, I'm the one that but we both said we were quite confident that that Cooper Webb would not finish off the podium the rest of this year, and I've been proven wrong only one race later. That I really did not have on my bingo card. I mean, yeah, there was always a chance that Webb would be off the podium at any of the remaining rounds. I just didn't expect it after kind of that spree he had been on. Just definitely the tides changed, and that's something that's always so interesting about our series, man. Like, you go through weeks of hell and issues and mistakes like Chase went through, and weeks of confidence building like Cooper, and it can flip-flop just like that.
Well, this is what's good, because let's be honest, Birmingham was a dud, by all accounts. But the fact that Chase gained points and Webb was off the podium, that opens up Pandora's box, and there's a ton to get into. So although the racing was kind of terrible, the actual narrative in 450SX is now much more exciting than it's been for a couple of weeks. But let me ask you this. I feel like opinion of this is 50-50 split, and I know what side I'm on. Do you lean on the side of, oh, look at that, Chase Sexton is more mature, he's figured himself out, how good of him to not throw it away? Or the side of, yeah, Chase Sexton just is back to business as usual, back to business as normal, this is the Chase Sexton we know, it's no big deal, there's not been a major change, this is just what we should expect. I personally feel like the second one. Like, okay, yeah, this should happen more often.
It should happen more often. And you say that business as usual. I think Chase has a track record of pushing when not necessary. And that's why there's this narrative around his crashes, his issues out front. Like, yeah, he's had some extremely dominant victories over the past couple of years, but we've also seen him in positions where he could have backed it down and taken away better results. And I think still the thing that stands out is the admission in Arlington that I just wanted to win, and pretty much anybody else is like, we get that, buddy, but you threw away a lot of points on a championship. Nobody cared if you won the third and final main. They care if you win the championship. So I lean a little more towards the first one. I mean, he even stated himself that, yes, as soon as he got in that position, he thought about Arlington and thought about, yeah, I don't need to do that again.
I guess actually both of those statements that I made are kind of one in the same. I think they can live alongside each other and be.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Yeah.
It can be both of them together. What about the 450 SX title fight? 8 points now. It basically was cut in half. It was proven that Webb won't be top 2 every week, and these other guys can get in the mix. And, that will only be magnified coming up as we have bad weather in Seattle and potentially some of the other rounds. So it's certainly open, but do you still back Cooper Webb quite aggressively?
I mean, I'm definitely closer to a 50-50 split. What I was really interested is I usually feel by, you get into the dog days, what's the dog days of summer, as they say, the later part of the championship, and usually once guys solidify themselves, I don't know, you don't see, I don't want to say Webb rode amazing. Palmain, struggled. In the first main, did he go down by himself?
Yes.
Again, being on the floor shooting. Okay. I don't know. You just I know Justin Cooper had been performing well, but to see Malcolm and Plessinger and Anderson, especially Malcolm and Anderson kind of turn it around a little bit. I just didn't expect those guys to kind of be a factor against Webb at this point in the championship. I'm gonna go for a very lame response and say close to a 50-50. I lean slightly towards Webb. He has still the points advantage. He has a track record that is still taking away recency bias of Birmingham. He still has had a stronger run over the past few races. Like you said, I think one of the biggest things is, hey, before we were saying Chase basically had to win out. Yes, he still has to claw back a little bit, but it's extremely doable. It could take one more week of an okay ride for Webb, and he's right there tied. But more what you said, the venues is what has me, just what the next couple rounds look like. Seattle is going to be, from all accounts, a potential shit show this weekend. I was listening to Dirtworks crew talk about almost like the Oakland situation we had a couple years ago. They're worried about being able to build the track because I haven't looked too much at the forecast. They were saying, oh, race day's not bad. It's just supposed to rain every day until we get there. And if it's raining, they can't, it's very hard for them to build the track. So that's an issue. And then we get into 4 rounds deep in the Northeast. I believe all 4 are open stadiums, correct? Your two PA rounds, your Jersey,
we're open stadiums the rest of the way. We're done.
Yeah, so that's really interesting in the sense of the title fight, that anything could happen across those 4 rounds. And on one hand, some fans would sit back and be like, I just want to see the racing. I just want to see clean tracks. But also, that's part of our sport is, the hurdles you have to jump through and all that.
Obviously, remembering San Francisco last year, are we 100% certain that Chase is a better mud rider of the two? I don't know. I can't really remember any Cooper Webb mud rides that stand out. And maybe it's just recency bias because San Francisco wasn't that long ago, but...
Yeah, San Fran was a legit mudder, so it stands out. It was unique because Chase wasn't even in I would say, a good place at the time, and it rode extremely well at that race. But that definitely falls into the category, if we have one of those style mudders at Seattle, which, again, by all accounts, we could have, man, that comes down to so many factors, potentially especially start, which, again, falls in a great position for Chase. Both him and Aaron Plessinger, fantastic this week, which is another funny one. I believe Jamie asked Chase in the press conference about his improved starts, and he said, I don't know where they came from. He goes, I think he said Wednesday or Thursday. He goes, I did a couple starts that were so bad, my dad told me to just pack it up and leave, and he packed up the gate and said I don't do starts anymore because something along those lines. He says starts were so bad during the week.
I'll tell you what's one thing that stands out about Cooper Webb, and maybe this is something and nothing, making a big deal out of a molehill or whatever the saying is. Cooper Webb doesn't make mistakes.
Heard that one.
Yeah, making a mountain out of a molehill.
That's a very British term. I have not heard that one.
Making a mountain out of a molehill. But
I guess when you live somewhere where it's so freaking flat, that's considered a mountain?
No, it's because a molehill is quite small, and if you're making a mountain out of it, you're making a big deal out of something that's a small deal. That's effectively what I'm saying.
I'm just making fun of the British saying.
But Cooper Webb doesn't make mistakes. However, Daytona, the first corner in the heat race, kind of went down by himself. Indy, I think there were 3 crashes throughout the day. Kind of weird. First main event in Birmingham, went down by himself. Yes, first lap kerfuffle, but ultimately went down by himself. I'm a little bit eyebrow raised at the number of mistakes Webb's made in the last 3 races, because to me that's more than he's made in the last 3 years. And I don't know what that is, but when I didn't think much of the Birmingham crash, and then I randomly remembered Indy, and then remembered Daytona, and I was like, bit of a weird trend for someone who's so perfect.
Yeah, were Indy's all during practice and qualifying though?
No, one was a heat race.
Was a heat race. I will say when we talk about mistakes with him, I mean, to your point, yes, the recency of that is concerning. I guess when I always think about him mistake-wise, it really comes back to how we talk about how much he seems to lock in come the most important time of the day, the main. So actually, Birmingham's is almost the most concerning to me because I mean I've seen Webb fall plenty of times in practice, wash out, but man, when it seems to be the absolute time of the day that it matters the most, usually is his most mistake-free, best racing. Just little things like that usually don't happen to him when it comes to the big night.
And equally, I think that if you're Webb, like, okay, it was a bad night by his standards, but the fact that he left with a win, that's enough to not dwell, not overthink. Like, in a way, you won, I want to say, like, the main event of the night, because the final race does feel like the one.
The final. It's the one that stands out the most, the finish line fire, the whole 9 yards. But especially to bounce back, if you start with a 7th and a 4th, it's very easy to rush things, spiral a little. So for him to still clot back and put it together for the final run is positive. Same question to you. You look at this championship now between the two. Who are you backing?
I think I go back to what I've been saying the last few weeks. The fastest man can find a way. I think that is still relevant, isn't it? Like, the fastest man can find a way, whereas the second fastest man maybe needs to dip, dive, dodge, and hope that the fastest man makes mistakes, as we've seen in the mid part of the season.
Lewis is saying he backs Chase fastest man.
Well, was that not obvious? I think everyone's on that page. One curious thing to come from Birmingham, and this was on my mind over the break. So in Daytona, I said to Webb, like, can we just have a bit more information on the off-season injury? Because I feel like it's been so mysterious, and you've not really spoken about it. And in Daytona, he said, we could have gone the surgery route, but luckily we didn't. And then in the break, it randomly dawned on me that maybe that means surgery is actually going to be needed come the end of Supercross, and he's already given up on outdoors. So I asked him, and he said, no, that's not the case. I can't remember the exact mechanics of it, but the way the thumb was injured it's like healing by itself quite miraculously, and he's all in on outdoors, and there's no concern of that. I mean, admittedly, maybe there's a chance this is all just what you tell the media, but I do believe what he was saying. So, just if anyone's concerned about that, then no need to be worried.
Webb's off-season crash is very similar 10th to the Thrasher crash, right? It was hitting somebody else's bike that was already down at the Go Farm. They don't talk about kind of thing. Yeah,
well, as far as I know, Webb's crash was Davies was down and Webb hit his bike, whereas Thrasher's crash was Davies smoked Thrasher. So,
was it Davies that smoked him? I thought it was Ben. Oh, it was. Okay.
So, it's kind of similar, but also quite different, I guess, if you want to put an aggressive meter on them. Circling back to the beginning.
You stay away from Cole during the week.
Post-race show exclusive, because as you heard in the Chase Sexton interview, he rudely cut me off before I had a chance to finish my sentence, and now I will finish said sentence on this podcast as a exclusive to these listeners. The end of the sentence was going to be, you shined as bright as your Decal Works graphics, which, unfortunately, he stopped me from getting there. But here we are now to say that Chase Sexton was great in Birmingham, but not as great, not as spectacular, not as shiny as his Decal Works graphics, and you too can benefit from the same spectacular look on your bike, no matter the make, model, year, any of that stuff. Just head to decalmx.com, get the same service, the same quality, the same look as Chase Sexton, and benefit from all that comes with that, because align yourself with the same partners, the same vibe as Chase Sexton, and great things will happen. And that is why I wholeheartedly recommend Decal Works. Thank you to those guys for backing all of our post-race content on Vital MX. Anything else about like Chase or Webb? Is there anything else to do there? I think you mentioned Webb starts or Chase's starts. I think I put them both down as somewhat hot and cold on starts, but not like a whole shot can happen for either of them any week. I'm not really like convinced either way that one of them's a worse starter than the other. It just seems like potluck.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Coming into Seattle this weekend, I don't lean towards either one of them gets a whole shot or a top 2 start in a mud race. Doesn't surprise me. They're both a little hot and cold. It also falls in the category what me and you talk about. Like, I don't think of either of them as particularly great starters, but when the confidence is there, you're usually a pretty good starter. I mean, you're the two of them on the gate. They're usually not worried about anybody other than each other outstarting them. It would feel like, for the most part, you don't. The only other person in here who I just look at as like you almost have to be worried about on every start is Justin Cooper on some nights. Like some nights, Jay Coop has just clicked in. Actually,
I think
AP too. Speaking which, funny quick Jay Coop one, because I remember Mathis was peddling the whole stock engine thing. So Steven Tarkowski attests for us, now worked at Yamaha for like 9 years. So him and the engine guy Colin are good buddies. I had him ask and almost said, no way in hell. He said it's just mellowed out compared to Webb's. He said it's still a fully built engine. Like he said it's not stock, not even close.
Well, could it not be semantics? Like it's mellowed out to the level of a stock engine.
I just laugh how it gets proposed. Like he's literally on a stock engine, and I literally have people saying that now. Like, oh, the Yamaha's great. Look, Jay Coop's fucking almost winning races on a bone stock engine, and it's like, no, it's just mellower mapping, basically.
Well, there's also similar upheaval about Ducati saying they're on stock engines in MXGP. So I think that people are going to refuse to accept that any way you spin it. To be honest with you, when I interviewed Malcolm after the race, I was going into the interview with such positivity because I thought it was a great night. And then he walked over to me and was limping like a man who had seen some shit.
Oh, he hit on his hip hard from that Justin Hill crash.
The races were so great that it kind of erased my memory of qualifying. And then I remembered not only that crash, but I believe like a lap later he crashed in the section before the Supercross triple. So all things considered, incredible night for Malcolm Stewart. And I said this to him and he somewhat agreed. I think that this podium finish somewhat stamps Tampa. It really eliminates the idea that Tampa could have been a flash in the pan, a one-hit wonder. This makes it seem like there's some sort of consistent lever to pull on there, you know? Like, I think it's important it's closure on Tampa. Maybe that's a better way to put it.
Particularly to me, the second main was, because I'd have to go back and look at the time gaps. I might be just going off mental memory here shooting, but I saw him, like, again, Chase is out front, so who knows how hard he's pushing. I saw Malcolm pull that gap in a couple times, like, definitely was there consistently, pulled in. Like, I thought his second main was the one that stood out to me, like, okay. Again, this kind of stamps it. Like, he is completely capable this year. That wasn't a one-hit wonder moment. Like, he is riding this good. But like I said, it is interesting. It almost makes you forget the morning because I was standing right. There's a group of us, like, you know, the guys take off for the start during the last, was it the final time qualifying session or the one before? Because they did a legit start together and came through the first rhythm lane. There's like 5 of us photographers in there. He's kind of waiting for the first lap to play out before he starts shooting. And I just looked up and saw Hill's chaos and collect Malcolm's body hitting that landing made more noise than anything else in that crash.
Well, it's a big body. It will do
big
that.
Body.
Also, I think important to clarify. I spoke to I spoke to Malcolm and Barsha about this. Both said that they haven't started negotiating deals for 2026 yet. They're not in that process, but they expect clarification on what sort of can be negotiated in the coming weeks. And as far as I know, mid-April, the Pierre Mobility Group will make a decision on where the Husqvarna Gas KTM dynamic falls. I still stand by the fact that I think Gas goes, and talking to people closer to the situation, I think that is also their opinion as well. Yeah. Interestingly, how do I put this? I feel like between Barsha and Malcolm, it's fairly a toss-up. And someone really was adamant to me that, like, no, Rockstar love Malcolm. It's not a competition. Yes. Like, if Malcolm's on the docket, then it's Malcolm. And I mean, I'm looking at it purely from results rider perspective, but this person really made it seem as though Barsha is going to be out of luck unless there is just an extra bike. Yeah. Whereas, I look at it as more as competition.
I would agree with that, and I think we know, in a sense, that Justin has more of a pathway from this, like the TLD connection's really strong, the Ducati talk strong kind of thing, so I see that as more likely, because Malcolm's in a weird spot. If he was the one that was out, not to say with the win this year negotiation, like he could find some, but also in the same breath, I hear names moving around. Malcolm's hasn't come up to go anywhere else. I haven't heard like anybody saying that Malcolm's not in a rude way, but I don't have anybody saying the top of the list. I do know, yes, Rockstar is extremely into Malcolm. Barsha, of course, just got transferred this year from Red Bull backing because of the way the team shifted around. Yeah, I would think with Gas going away, and that's such an interesting dynamic. Potentially. Let's clarify that. It's an interesting dynamic, I will say, because from a product standpoint, talking to some of their largest dealers that I know, they keep saying like there's still a very set and plan in place for the Gas brand, going back to being kind of like the outgoing model, being cheaper, like, and the dealers are very for it. They say they need it. So like on that side, on one hand, I was like, oh, maybe it will be a Husky because there seems to be a lot of push behind the Gas brand. But then you look from a racing success standpoint, the Husky brand's been so strong. It's kind of interesting. So to clarify, I agree with you from what I've heard. I think, we could potentially see Gas away as a racing entity, but I think it would still be around as a brand entity.
Yeah, someone very, very close to the situation, very in the know, said to me that their opinion, and this is echoed somewhat internally, is that Gas is going to sell no matter what, whereas Husqvarna customers, Husqvarna riders would care more about the results, the heritage, the continuation of tradition, and therefore that's why, effectively, they said if you stop Husky racing, I don't think Husky bikes sell. If you stop Gas racing, I think Gas bikes sell. It was that kind of black and white.
There's that product plan, and at that point you could put some off-road programs on it, you could put amateurs on it, but I think especially they're going to change it where they kind of went from this is our more entry-level product, it's a bit cheaper, to they kind of brought it up to the current platform, and now it's not that much cheaper other than the tires, clamps, a couple of things. If you get back to what it was, that's kind of the point. Like, hey, we race our premium product, we race our KTM, we race our Husqvarna. Our gas is still very popular. Here's the stuff you saw us race on 2 years ago. Here you go. You could get it at a good deal. With that, though, like, since we're already down this rabbit hole, it falls into one piece category, because I had this conversation with somebody on the KTM team this weekend. I jokingly said, so at the rate Tom's going, are we packing 3 450s on the truck next year? And they looked at me and said, well, if we don't pick up another 250 rider, we'd have room. But if we don't, they're just like straight up, like, if we hire a 250 guy, a 450 guy's going. Like, we cannot run more than 4 guys the way we're set up, the way we're structured, the way everything packs, the whole 9 yards. They were just very adamant, like, yeah, Tom moving up is going to be very interesting as long as he wins the title. Because, again, I say that, and I've mentioned this multiple times, if for some reason Tom does not defend the title, he is eligible to stay on a 250 one more year. It has to do with the whole maximum 4 years allowed in the class, even if you win a title rule, because Tom coming from Europe, this is his 3rd year. But if Tom wins the title, as soon as you win the title twice, you're automatically out, regardless of years, any other part of the rule. So, what say you on that? Because I'm very confused with the Aaron situation. Like, if you kept Gas, you could move him over. I don't know.
People not linked to KTM, but in the paddock, obviously other team managers have said to me, there is no way KTM let AP go. The Red Bull thing, and my reply, and the thing that I'm going to stick with, is not only is Vialle the future, more so than AP, Pitt, Robert love Vialle. He's KTM's baby. So I think that they either slide AP over or maybe even let him go quite happily if they need to do that to keep their, this is an extreme way of putting it, but their golden child in the frame. And again, let's not forget, he is the future. AP isn't going to be around forever, and eventually Chase won't be around. Then you maybe need Vialle. But so yeah, my vote is very much on Vialle. If Vialle needs to go 450, then he is on a Red Bull KTM 450, point blank. Yeah. I was on this beat. I asked Vialle this. I said, like, if you go 450, what's the contract deal? Are you concerned? How do you think that plays out? And he gave me a nothing answer. Just said, if I have to go 450, I'll be going 450. I was like, well,
most point blank.
If the sun comes up, the day will start. But final point on this. I really want clarification, because I feel like the entire time that this has been a thing, there's not been clarification on this. But I really want clarification on when the Rockstar deal is up and what it includes. Like, is Rockstar actually in for next year? And if so, are they committed to 2 teams? Like, I feel like it's always a moving target with
I need to check with Nate because I swear they re-upped. You fixing your focus?
Yeah, I don't know why the focus just went.
Yeah,
I think this camera's breaking.
For a second. It's breaking. I think, man, I get my years jumbled. It wasn't the beginning of this year. I had the conversation with Nate last year about them re-upping, but I can't remember if that started this year.
It's
always
never
been 2 years.
black and white. It always seems to be like it seems to be the most incredibly fluid situation. It's never like, oh yes, the contract was signed here and it expires here.
I swear I could be wrong. I think it's good through next year. I know somebody else that's involved from a media standpoint with them, and they've told me straight up, like, back to your comment about Malcolm, about like take like an RJ. It's also down to them about marketability, like with the riders, and they are very tied to, yes, RJ and Malcolm. They're extremely excited about, like, that's a big deal to them. They would have, if it's almost one of those things too, if it's in a contract state and they came to him and said, hey, we're offing Malcolm, we're going to move this over, they would actually kind of probably, it seems like from my understanding, they'd be the kind of people to put their foot down and go, no. Yeah. We pay you because we like this guy. You know, we're kind of aware we're probably not going to win the most. We're here for the marketability of the series, the storylines, like, we like this guy. Here is my final opinion, though, on the Aaron thing. I could very much see, like, this kind of reminded me, and this is no offense to some of the kids, like, watching the SMX next. I don't, KTM group kind of blew it with Cole Davies. Before a couple days, like, I don't see anyone in their current group that's like, yeah, we need to put them at Red Bull KTM. So my final guess is that they do go 3 450s and 1 250F as long as it's budgetarily okay. I think manpower wise they shift that way, because I don't see a 250 they stick there unless we go back to the thing that we have not been talking about for a while, is if somebody on the Europe side is coming over.
Yeah, that is a whole other
part.
That's a whole other podcast at this point. But
that's the only thing effect, because I don't see KTM is again so premium, and Rockstar, like, because you have Juju's out of contract technically, they'll re-up him.
Yeah, there's no way they after the potential he's shown this year, there's no way they turn their back on that.
No. Yeah, so they'll go with him, but everybody else is up too. Casey and Ryder are. But again, even if they have a kid in the group that's getting pretty close, well, Landon Gibson's close, they'll just put, like, their plan is to put him at Rockstar Husky. I would say then the fear is, I think Ryder showed more at the beginning of the year. Like, I think Casey would be out potentially, but I could be wrong there. But I think Husky would be traditional 2 450s, 2 250s. And then KTM might be 3 450s and 1 250 for the year.
I think that's a lot of bikes. I think I would be quite surprised if they go with that much, that many riders.
That's how many riders they have right now. No, they have more
but then in that case, just keep gas. Like, you're not really okay. I guess a rig less on the road and all of that.
But we'll know the rig will stay because it'll go back to being a because have you ever actually worked through those trucks? The one is still a race truck, the other is still a hospitality truck. So not to script their branding, but all the riders from one team hanging out on the other, they just wrapped it for the year.
I just like you look in MXGP. Gas has gone. Husqvarna is just 2 MX2 riders, no 450s. Like, it's not and. Potentially, Husqvarna isn't locked in MXGP next year fully yet. So, like, I don't see that. That is almost doubling down on Husky too much in my mind. But who knows? Moving on. Congrats to AP on his second podium of the season. I heard a lot of people reference it as his first, but let's not forget Daytona. His first traditional Supercross podium, if you want to call it that. Not as surprised as other people. I feel like this has been trending for 5 or 6 weeks now. I'm just curious to see where it goes from here, again, as we get to worst weather conditions. I'm curious to see what AP can do, but he's certainly, I feel like, either at his form of last year or right there near it. So, good to see, because it was a rough start, huh?
Let me ask you one other then on Aaron. I think we did this one maybe about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. It was kind of like, okay, we've already had a slew of winners. Who could be the last? Even though we have multiple races, I kind of feel like we're probably only going to get one more time. One more new winner for the season, more than likely. With Aaron's current form, a lot of potential for mud races, things of that in the nature. Justin Cooper didn't have a great night, but he's had great form for weeks before that. Aaron, J. Coop, which one does either get a win before the season, and which one of those two would it be if so?
Well, if you factor in Anderson and Barsha, I would back AP and J Coop over Anderson and Barsha.
Yes,
just to make
that's why
that clear.
I picked those.
And at this point, it's so recency bias. But at this point, with the start, it's crazy. I hate myself for even saying this, but right now I would go AP, and I know it's fully recency bias. But the starts are just as good as J Coop. Yeah. He does seem to be improving, whereas I don't feel like J Coop takes massive steps, whereas I feel like I'm seeing massive steps from AP. So I'll go AP, but actually, I'll say that there won't be another winner.
Oh,
but if there is, I'll say AP.
Okay.
What says you?
Mostly because of conditions, like we get, like Larry Seattle this weekend's a Quagmire, great start. AP's pretty good in the mud. Like I'm not saying that's the only way AP can win, but that's definitely what stands out in my mind. So yes, of the two of them, I think AP is more likely. I'm actually more certain though that we will get one more winner before this whole thing wraps up. What would that put us at for the season? Is that
7?
7.
And I believe that's the first time since, I want to say, 97.
7. That would be a long time ago. I knew it was outside the 2000s.
Maybe we go to 8. Who knows? Roczen was 5th and salvaged well on 1 week on from his AC separation, which he kept quite quiet on press day, but then decided it was fine for everyone in the world to know on Saturday. So
that part did catch me off guard.
But yeah, I guess it's not that big a deal because 464 is a great scorecard, and to be honest with you, he didn't look like he was labouring much. So I guess we just kind of scoot over that as it's not a big deal and we don't really need to dwell on it. But yeah, certainly a surprise revelation after he talked to everyone on press day and didn't mention it. But also you have to think, if it was really that big of an issue, he's not riding press day. So
also, to be fair, and I didn't hear your questions, but I do know the vast majority of us, me and LeBig were just bullshitting with him for a minute, just like, he became American citizen this week, so that was pretty much 90% of the conversation.
No, I didn't ask him about that, but I did say to him, you were sick in Indy, so how did that... I said something like, did that hurt your weekend off, or was it business as usual? So I feel like that's a perfect segue to go, no, the sickness passed quite quickly, but then this happened.
I can't
but never mind. Yeah, quiet weekend for Jacob, as we said. Anderson is just in a deep, dark place at the moment and kind of going nowhere fast. And I just reaffirm what I said previously about how I just don't understand how Kawasaki can look at this and go, that's our guy, bring him in.
And that's the same. I feel like we're beating a dead horse at this point. It's not to be malicious or anything, but looking at his form, like... You take the guys that are available. Again, we're talking about a situation where Jacob is a free agent and free to negotiate. You've got a situation where Aaron is hanging in a weird spot. Like, you could, I just feel like you could take Aaron, Jacob, Anderson, Barsha, put them all in a bag. Like, yeah, they're all going to probably get around the same results, but take like a Jacob. We kind of have that whole, hey, his ceiling may not have been reached yet. Like Anderson is late enough in his career, not to say he can't have one more decent run, but it's kind of like, okay, you're backing Anderson to maybe a turnaround for one more good year because of the age thing. Like we're getting up there. Jacob still has enough runway. Like, okay, you could build something great here, but even at its worst, it's not going to be much different than what you have. And then Aaron is a little bit in between. He's older, but not as old as Anderson. The fan base is really strong. I just come up with all these arguments where I'm like, I must be missing something. I don't know, but I just look at those guys as better options at this point.
Yeah, I would even argue, and not saying that I think Kawasaki should go this route over Anderson, but I almost, at this point, I feel more hopeful that Barsha has more in him than I do Anderson. Because it just seems... I really feel like if there was going to be one more good year, this was going to be it. And especially how it started, again, A1, A2, brilliant. Or could have been brilliant. So, yeah, I've kind of given up all hope at this point, and I'd be very surprised. Go ahead.
I just need to... I'm not going to see all the round after. I need to ask him. I'm just curious, like, what their explanation is for where this has gone. I'm very curious.
It is kind of what happens every year, isn't it?
This is a little gnarlier, though. He's had some ups and downs, but, like, this, yeah, it just seems very lost at times. Like, I'm very confused at the results the last couple weeks, particularly.
okay, I don't quite know how to to communicate this in the best way, but since 2022, he's not had a podium from round 7 to round 14. I feel like there's a better way to put this out there, but I literally just looked at this, so I don't have the time to really work on it. But basically, from the second we leave the West Coast, it does kind of go to shit, is what I'm seeing there.
Well, and this weekend they were joking about, like, man, that track got baked quick. Speaking of which, like, when we went to the final time qualifying session, it looked like freaking Elsinore out there, dusty.
It looked like Salt Lake. It reminded me of Salt Lake or Denver.
Yeah. I was just laughing because I did think at that moment, like, okay, Anderson could be in play here. And then the track kind of came back around their way. But Jesus, that was a funny one. How many riders mentioned to me they, left the first time qualifying session. The track's like, oh, it's pretty good. It's got some decent ruts. Came out the second time qualifying session. They're like, what happened? This track is gone.
I think this is actually a good thing to say as well. So from round 7 to round 14 last year, Anderson's results were 10, 9, 6, 4, 10, 11, 4.
Oh,
that's fairly similar to what we've had this time around. Like, I'd say that's eerily similar. So that gives me even less hope, to be honest. But anyway, Shane McElrath was great. He continues to move forwards and kind of rebuild his 450 career, or build his 450 career, because I don't really know if it was there in the first place. Justin Hill dinged his ankle in that crash that claimed Malcolm, but says that he'll be okay moving forward and will do all he can to be at his best for his home race in Seattle. And Christian Craig, it's fine. He just needed to get a result on the board, come out, be in the top 15, let's say, and then we move from here. So not much to say, not much criticism, not much praise. Great to have him back.
I will say praise. Every person I ran into that watched him for a session, it's the total eye test, but every single person like, holy crap, he looks a lot better on that bike. Like, yeah, the result isn't, like I said, it's solid, just nice and consistent, but visually watching him, looks a lot better than the Husky. He looked a lot more like himself, at least.
Yeah, and that probably is to the credit of Yamaha and Yamaha Motor USA. Of course, now their lineup has been bolstered with the addition of Craig, and we're going to have Tomac back soon. So 4 YZ450F. Is it FM in America, or is it just F?
It's F. It's F. Oh. FM isn't even, I don't think that's the model in Europe. I think that's just the racing designation.
Yeah, that's like the factory title, but factory G?
Yeah, we just called it.
Okay.
Nope, just F.
I always want to say FM. But anyway, credit to Yamaha, and you too can benefit from the same machine as Christian Craig. Or, if you're looking for something a little different, Yamaha have a wide portfolio, something that suits every rider, something that suits every need. So head to your local dealer, head online, look wherever you want to look, see what they have to offer, and jump on blue. If you're feeling blue, going blue will make you stop feeling blue. We'll work on that as well. That slogan needs some work. But thank you to Yamaha for their support of this podcast. Also,
it's my freedom, it's my fix, it's the endless pursuit of trying to find that flow.
Right, are you happy to go 250s?
2 little ones. I mean, Benny's results, a big bounce back. He's kind of been getting, Oldenburg's kind of had the better of him for a couple rounds now, so Benny to crack another top 10 consistently on the beta was good. And then last one was kind of a funny conversation. I feel bad saying this aloud. So Ferrandis, 9:22:10. During the break, he got some more help from HRC, got a cam from them, ECU help, a new transmission. Somebody on the team did ask me, how much do you think that will improve his results? I was like, I don't know, 1 position. And they laughed. I was wrong. It was a worse weekend. But but that part leads me to, it's kind of funny how the total general HRC conversation is just gone because Joey hurt. Shane needs to stay put. Dylan already got told, hey, we'll just help you with parts. And then what happened to the Dean conversation?
But apparently Dean's still coming. I don't know when, but apparently it's on.
I just feel like around Daytona, I thought it was happening, I thought it was at Birmingham.
Yeah, I'm with you. It would make perfect sense to start after a weekend off, but apparently it's still on.
Poor Dean might get a run of terrible races because of mud or some other crap. Like, hey, here's your HRC opportunity. Good luck.
At this point, what's the point? Like, we've come this far now. Just finish the season with your 250 guys. There's no need to add Dean at this point. It's too far gone.
I feel bad saying that. Like, I felt like the hype, like they keep tasing the Trey thing a little bit. And I just felt like the the hype for the rotating cast was kind of there for a little bit. Oh, let's put Trey on the bike. Let's put Shane. Let's do something. It's kind of gone to the point. I'm like, oh yeah, that was a conversation. It's been a while. Okay.
Anyway, on to 250s, where we had our 9th winner in 10 rounds, which is really quite something, to be honest. And that's without Tom Vialle getting one. So there's definitely, I'd say, one more to come. Nate Thrasher continued his incredibly weird, wonderful, and wicked Supercross career, where he just manages to rise from the ashes and look like the full package. But, and I said this to him after the race, I think there's a little bit of beauty in how he did this, because no one talks about him as the consistent guy. So for him to win a Triple Crown without winning a main event, there's some beauty in that for him. I think there's something he can take from that. That's a feather in his cap. That's a string to his bow. I don't know. There's beauty in that. So I guess that's great for him. I don't know. But what's the
I'm just confused as usual when you say nine winners and 10 rounds across both coasts. This just goes back to East-West every year. Some years I'm just like, nobody wants to win these things.
Yeah, well, just
it reminds me of like the year that Malcolm won the title. Just like a different guy every weekend. Jesus.
Just to run it through, so we've had Shimoda, Beaumer, Deegan, Smith, Anstie, Kitchen, Hampshire, Hammaker, and Thrasher. So, we've not had Vialle, we've not had Davies. I'd say those two are like really quite certain. And there's another guy I feel like I'm missing on the West who's really, maybe not, because we've had 4 there already. No, I don't think so. But, great to see Thrasher. Great to see Thrasher get back on top, because I do feel like he was having a confidence crisis in the off season and heading into this season, and I really feel like this season was going to define how his future looks. And also to his credit, the win is going to get all of the attention. He's been fairly solid, India side, this year. Like, even with the finger injury and not training, not practicing, limited time, pain, all of that, he's been fairly consistent and not rock solid, but more rock solid than in years past, I would say. So I think Thrasher does deserve some sort of credit here. So I'm here to give him that.
Yeah, I'm just curious when he finally makes, they'll sound like, when does the step happen? You know what I mean? Like leading into next year. I kind of heard him say on the podium, like, I really, talking about before the injury and stuff, really felt like this could be his season or something. And I still kind of wonder that going forward, because, like, okay, let's take this current field right now. RJ and Tom will be out next year out of the class. Nate's got plenty of experience. I don't know if I see that jump from even the current form we have to full title contender next year. I still, like, hopefully at the rate he's going, we see this kind of like backed up another time this year. You know what I mean? Especially with, we have a couple of regular East rounds, but a lot like more East-West coming up. If Nate can kind of stamp this level of result once or twice, kind of put him in a position to bridge the gap to race for a championship in 2026.
I think this is kind of just who he is, to be honest. And you know what? Not everyone can win a race, so that's still good. I just don't see there being much more in the tank there. I mean, there's often, before you're a championship winner, there's a transition period. So, and I'd argue he hasn't really started that transition period. So by that token, him potentially being a championship threat could be quite far down the line.
Well, that's what I meant. Like, I think that's why I was saying we need to see his backed up, because it's very rare that it goes from where he's at now to full title contender, which naturally Star's the kind of team that he's looking at. Like, that's where he wants to get. That's where the team wants to get, of course. That's what I was saying is, like, if he wants to be in that conversation next year, we still need, through the rest of the season, the pathway to, like, that path needs to happen. That transition period needs to sort of begin, or otherwise I feel like next year will just be the same thing I said, rising from the ashes, some so-so races, and then we'll win a race or something. But he's been in that narrative for a while. He needs to bridge the gap before, if he wants to make that step.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It really should have been RJ's win. But to be honest with you, he lacked a bit of... I feel like there wasn't much flash there in the night show.
I felt like it should have been Seth's win.
Well,
Holy
that's true. You know what? Yeah, that's true.
Dude, but, other than that first main, I mean, Seth came from ways back. When I look at the night, like, RJ rode great, but to me, I mean, between qualifying the other two mains, even as far back as Seth came through the first main, like, that was Seth's night to me personally.
Well, I said this to Seth after the race as well. Like, as weird as it sounds, I think that's more impressive to me than Indy. because this was like Indy. You got to win, brilliant, whole shot, all of that, great stuff. This is not only backing it up. I feel like this is taking the class in his hand and really like staking his claim, telling everyone he's shown up, showing he's for real. This ticks all the boxes in my mind. And unfortunate, of course, 911 missing a podium is rare, I feel, in a Triple Crown. We can run the numbers on that. But yeah, in a world, there is potentially a world where Hammaker wins that race overall, and then maybe he's only 6 or 7 points out of this thing. I do think it's time to start taking Hammaker a little more seriously in this title fight.
Yeah.
But
I agree. And that's this whole title fight in general. Let's talk about it. I mean, yes, Tom extended the gap a little bit. RJ's the next closest now with Anstie being out, and then Seth's kind of on the outside looking in. What do you think of that dynamic?
It's hard. Honestly, I don't think I've really given a firm answer at any point discussing the 250 East title, and I think I'm still there. I still want to go Vialle because has he won a race? No. Has he been close to winning a race? Probably not. But his lead is growing. I mean, yes, helped by Anstie going out, but you can't ignore the fact that we're at a halfway point in this series, and he's got an 11-point lead, I believe. Not only that, but I would argue that the races coming up are going to help him not because he's a great mud rider, but because he's consistent, steady. He's not going to throw it away. Whereas Hammaker and RJ in the mud potentially could. I mean, talking East Coast now, who knows if we'll have a mudder, but open air at least.
Even if we don't have a mudder, just kind of want to go back to with regional championships, the whole my joke, like nobody wants to win these things. Like that's still the thing that's going great for Tom. Like, yeah, Seth or RJ could come out and dominate a race next weekend or the weekend after. They could trade those out and dominate, but the lows are still too low. Tom doesn't have that so far and doesn't seem like he will at the rate he's going. There's just too much bouncing around in this class where I'm falling into your category more. It's just like, man, as much as like I want to sit here and be like, man, Seth is so on point, and I do. I don't know if it's like I was saying, like I really back Seth heavily. I do think if anybody in this group can make a run on a couple wins and bring it down, I actually believe a little more in Seth's form than RJ's at the moment. But in saying that, the belief of wanting to see the title fight, I'm like, I don't know how you catch Tom at this point, because Seth could go reel off 2 wins the next 2 weekends and something will happen and Tom will still come out with more points. Like,
yeah, like
I don't know, man.
You could say
math is, I don't know, man.
You could say over 2 rounds coming up, RJ will go 4-1, Hammaker will go 1-4, but Vialle will go 2-2. And in that overall scheme of things, he's actually extended his championship lead over both. Which brings us nicely to our MotoX USA Tom Vialle Sympathy Corner. Because once again, it took us... we've actually got a read for this. MotoX, known for high-quality engine oils, also has an entire line of clean, care, and lube products to keep your bike running strong and looking great. Maintenance made easy with race-proven MotoX clean, care, and lube products. And here we are to clean and care for Tom Vialle using MotoX products. Because once again, we went Thrasher, then we went RJ, then we went Hammaker, but eventually we came to Vialle, who is still not getting enough credit. And you know what? That first main event was a really good ride. Arguably one of his better ones in Supercross. Admittedly, when he kind of teed RJ up towards the end, you saw a rider who had very little experience with doing that and maybe a bit gun-shy. But I liked the intent. Once again, the Tom Vialle Sympathy Apology Corner presented by MotoX, because he needs more credit. And you know what? It will be very interesting. I will find this fascinating, in fact. When Tom Vialle wins, let's say he comes out and wins Boston, I'll be very interested if the narrative, the fan attention, the references to him, if they actually then change. Or if this is just what the Tom Vialle scope is. So watch this space and be certain that the MotoX Tom Vialle Sympathy Corner will in fact return to cover that in its entirety. I think now is a good time to talk about Max, correct?
Yep.
So crushing injury, quite literally, for Anstie. Broke his fibula in the first qualification session, I want to say. Honestly, and I said this to him almost immediately, I'm quite happy with that because to me, my first thought was ACL, my second thought was Achilles. Like this, in my mind, should have been a lot worse. Yeah. So that's a positive. Very similar to Tomac's injury. I've seen the scans. Tomac's scans were public, Max's aren't. But comparing the two, Max's looks fucking horrific. But the doctors, it sounds like they're actually quite optimistic that this isn't going to be that big a deal. And like the timelines, it's only Monday morning as we record this. I think he's getting more opinions today. But right now, the timelines he's being given, outdoors is no problem. 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah, like outdoors is no problem, and also he should have prep. I'm baffled at how he's going to recover this quickly. It doesn't. Surgery is also up in the air at the moment. It doesn't sound like he's going to have surgery. Yeah. But trust me, seeing these scans and then computing the medical advice is hard.
Is the fibula break, is it high right below the knee or low near the ankle?
Higher. Which apparently is great. Yeah, I guess.
Because you have so much support. Like you look at the bone structure coming off the tib there, so I could see you have a lot of structure and support. Yeah, I saw when I saw him go feet first as somebody who's also broken his heels myself, and I know a lot of riders have done that. It's a bad one. I was kind of worried about like heel, ankle, Achilles area, or like you said, upward force, ACL. So yes, fibula is probably the best case scenario for that because heels, even if it's just a clean break, they're a terribly slow heel in the bone, and a lot of your weight goes in, so that's a miserable heel. We both know Achilles takes forever. ACL, depending on what it is, can take, can be quite preventive. So, yeah, best case scenario for Max. It just sucks from, again, this just championship hunts period in either class. Just like, God damn it, just want some guys to stay in this.
I'm going to do a story on this because it is quite interesting. Anstie's never won an adult championship, professional championship. Yeah. He was...
Except for World Supercross, bro.
Oh, fuck yeah. Okay.
And your story's been screwed.
Well, my point being, it's quite interesting. Like, he was far gone in the British Championship in 2015, like almost a perfect season. And then the final round of the British was after the Nations, and that was the Nations where he got landed on coming down the hill. So lost the championship there. 2015 MX2 World Championship, he was arguably the clear favourite to win. Again, incredible win streak, just taking chunks out of everyone. Then crashed, and that was it. It was over. Like, Anstie, I think it's fair to say that even at the lowly British Championship level, Anstie should have won one of these championships by now. But for some reason, it just seems to be a little bit like a poison chalice. But let me reaffirm. Considering the injury, considering the crash, I'm sat here on Monday feeling very positive about his situation. So that's good. And he is positive as well. No pain. Happy days. You know what? Maybe even we'll replace you with him on this podcast one week. He's not doing much.
That's fine.
But also, that'd be a long podcast.
Oh, just do it.
I don't think... no one's got the time.
Yes. Oh, my God.
It would be like the Harry Potter books. It'd be like welcome to part 1 of 7 of our Boston review.
Now you're doing it. Now you're doing it. I have to see
this.
Like,
honestly, could you imagine? It'd just be horrific. Anyway. Yeah, that's funny. But the good thing is we can laugh at him because he's going to be okay. I want to give Bennett some credit because, last year he started at round 1 brilliantly, went downhill. This year started at round 1 brilliantly, then got hurt. So I felt like it was really poised for him to go in a similar trajectory to last year. Whereas this ride especially, I think he's showing there's some sort of life there. There's some sort of reason to believe. And is it spectacular? No. But is it fine? Yes. And fine is a far stretch from where we were last year.
Yeah. No. Races were good. A little bit quiet. Like time qualifying, I thought his time didn't match how fantastic I thought he looked like he was running. He just looked very confident on the bike, pumping through everything, just very playful, tossing around everywhere. So he looked like he was enjoying himself. And like there were some rounds last year I really thought the poor kid was depressed, like deep in that. So overall, seems to be improving, seems to be a little bit better with it. However, I will say the results kind of cracked me up the night because I even remember shooting somewhat of a quiet performance in a sense. Like each moto where he was just kind of there. And at the end of the night, I definitely had to look at the results and go look at, man, where did Dax end up? Because I saw him running decent, but I didn't really know where it ended out. So Was just kind of outside that top group to be a part of the front running conversation, but very solid overall.
Yeah, and also very solid overall. Would best describe Fox Racing's offering to the motocross community. Bold, untamed, and pushing the boundaries of aesthetic, style, and design. Fox Racing's new spring MX graphics, launching with Hello Future, disrupt the status quo and make no apologies for the interruption. Compromised of head-to-toe kits, plus a slew of head-turning men's and women's lifestyle pieces. Its spirited graphic combined with dialed-in fit, comfort and construction sends a message loud and clear and confidently too. The future belongs to those brave enough to answer the call. And we didn't do a podcast last week, of course, weekend off, but how about the second round of MXGP where Fox not only won both classes, but swept the MX2 podium, which started a nice little debate in the press box this week, because I said that a bigger deal should have been made of this, because I'm honestly not sure. Has Fox ever swept the 250 podium in any series? Because this started the debate, because people were saying to me, well, no, here in the Geico days with Roczen, and I was like, no, because I don't think the Geico and Roczen really lined up timeline-wise. So I don't know if Fox... And then someone threw out PC, but in the Fox era of PC, there's been no podium sweeps.
Full podium sweep, yeah.
No, they did in the 4 days, but not in the Fox era.
Yeah.
I don't think I would say it's not happened.
The other one with I would have to go back and look, because the other one with the Geico era is you have the Shift Fox Geico era, but then you have the Fox Geico era, like Fox gear.
We're not counting a Shift Fox combination, unfortunately.
Yeah, so you had the head-to-toe Fox, and then you had the years where they were Fox gear, showy helmet.
I want to say, my gut feeling is that it's never happened,
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. Off the top of my head, I would say no.
So, there you go. American podcast, but we can acknowledge what our amazing partners are doing worldwide, because they truly are touching communities all around the globe. I mean, look at Yamaha. They won the New Zealand MX1 Championship last weekend as well. While we were taking a weekend off, our sponsors were busy hustling in different corners of the world. So full credit to them, and we're very proud of all that they're doing. Well done to them. Jumping down the list, I had a very long and in-depth interview with Austin Forgner, where I did very little. I think I got 2 or 3 questions in. The answers, a la Max Anstie, were very in-depth, detailed. But he really bared his soul about his current mental state, why he's struggling to break through and out of this comfort zone that he's kind of residing in. It was quite... I think if you're critical of Austin Forgner, or you're wondering what's going on, that interview would answer all questions. I don't know if any of the information was revolutionary. It all made sense. But just hearing him say it kind of closed the book in my mind, where I'm like, okay, that's where we're at. Let's just see where we go from here. But... He counts Birmingham as a step forward again. Indy was a step forward. Birmingham was less so, but still a step. So, yeah, it's just not... He also said, quite interestingly, with zero disrespect, that the riders he's battling with scare him because he's never spent this much time around 8, 9, 10, 11, and he said he just doesn't know what they're going to do.
You can literally see it in his body language and rhythm lanes. He gets very tense. No offense. I mean, he had a great result. Hardy Munoz a 9th. I would be scared to death to be next to Hardy in the air in a lot of these rhythm lanes. He's riding good, but Jesus, I feel Austin's pain.
But I think it's a classic example of he goes on about, I need a start to get some air and run with the front guys. And I said to him in the interview, I said, it sounds like you don't want a start, because it sounds like you're not ready to put yourself in that position where you come out of the first corner and you've got to go. And he kind of thought about it and was like, yeah, you're right. So I don't know how you manage that. It's a fascinating dynamic in motocross to me, how you manage the desire to do well, but the fact that actually you kind of subconsciously don't want to do well. I don't know how you work with that. So, but watch this space, I guess. Forgner is slowly getting better, so maybe we have a top 7 coming up, and that would be another step. Carson Munford was just behind him, and actually really quite impressive. The best news is that he's okay after that first turn crash in the final main event. But he could have had a podium. Probably not the way the final main event shook out. I mean, the top guys were all there in the mix.
Probably be, based on his running order, I would say
5th.
If he trends, yeah, he would basically take Dax's place, because 19th, he had a 5-4. If he gets a a 6, he's on 16 points. He's an 8. Like he basically could have beat Dax with an 8th in that final one. So I would say he was on par to have a top 5 for the night.
Yeah, he would have taken Dax's position, but would have been much more of a factor in the top conversation than Dax, which is, I'm not sure he's ever been there in Supercross. So credit where it's due. And I do think that he's really showing something that factory teams may be interested in. Definitely, I'd say this has gone much better than I imagined. And credit to that team as well. Losing Anstie was obviously a blow, but with McElrath, Joey, and Carson, they've really found a steady, stable place in the sport. And I think that's equally good. Speaking of the team and Max, also a bit funny, cruel, whatever you want to say. It was Birmingham last year where the bike blew up, and that also ruined his title run. So Birmingham and Max, just a bit of a star-crossed lovers, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know. Anything else from 250s that stands out?
I thought I had one, and then my screen just went all wicked. Let's see. No, not really. Definitely a slew of some different casts farther back, guys I haven't seen make me. I think Hamden Hudson, I think somebody said that was his first Supercross, straight in, 17th. Lucrutio's had a rough year. He's slowly bouncing back. And then, did you hear the whole Lane Shaw Daddy thing?
Yep. It's
the whole description.
If I talk, I don't find it humorous. I don't find it enjoyable.
Find it humorous?
Nope. It's just embarrassing.
It's just embarrassing. I do think it's funny that a rider signed up for his Supercross license while in the hospital from another injury and while on so much pain medication decided to call himself Shaw Daddy. He was extremely embarrassed, but it just falls in the category of a typical Supercrossing. You were signing up for a race while in the hospital for getting injured on a motocross bike.
There has to be a vetoing process where someone at the AMA is like, hey, we're not going to let the Shaw Daddy Shaw guy race or sign up because that doesn't seem legitimate. Like, does that mean that you can sign up under Mickey Mouse? And then also you're just like, come on in. Like, there needs to be a vetoing process.
There would be a process where somebody like, that's not your name. No, that's not your name. Two riders I feel for, though, they're having, what I thought was going to be bright seasons on paper, but man, is just not trending great for is Romano and Linville.
But Linville, that first main event, I think it may not have even been a lap. I think it was a couple of corners.
We had a couple good corners.
I was like, look at this. I would not put those in the same category.
Guy.
Because I think that once again, similar to last year, Linville is showing a flicker of life, whereas Romano, the light bulb is out.
Yeah, the knee's bad. That's not a good one. But I just feel for both, like, Nick's preseason, like, this should be a lot better. And everything for Linville, the reason I say bad is, like, you say flicker light. Like, truly after last year, I really think somebody should have taken a shot on Linville. And the crappy part with end results like this, people are only seeing those glimmer every once in a while. I do think Linville is good enough to deserve a decent opportunity. I think he does.
Let's bump Munford up to a top team, and then let's bump Linville up to quadlock, which is actually where he started his career. Yep. But let's put him back there, and then Munford and then the circle of life can continue to prosper, and the sport continues to generate new talent. Let's do that. Speaking of generating new talent, weekend off again. Busy weekend for our sponsors, because not only did Yoshimura win the MXGP of Castilla-La Mancha in Kozar, they also won this past weekend's MXGP of Europe at Saint-Jean-d'Angely in France. They also delivered immense power to carry the CRF 250RW to an MX2 moto win for the first time since 2019. And full disclosure, the Honda is not the bike to have in the MX2 class, but it is when you have Yoshimura power beneath you. And in the thick slop, mud, horrid conditions, that power not only earned a whole shot in the 250 class, but a clear moto win, because just fired through the knee-deep quagmire that it was. And Yoshimura can also benefit your racing in a similar way, especially if you're in one of those areas that suffers from inclement weather. So I recommend that you head to yoshimura-rd.com and also see what they have to offer. Also, very functional website with a lot of tools to see what they have to offer for your make and machine. Thank you to those guys for their support of this podcast, as well as Decal Works, Yamaha, Motor USA, MotoX, and Fox Racing. Incredible cast that we have there. Very proud to be associated with all top quality brands. Only the best is what we would communicate to you, our loyal listeners. Final thoughts from Birmingham round 10. Michael Lindsay.
I don't want to go back to Birmingham.
It was fine. It's the arse end of nowhere, but it's fine.
It is very much the ass end of nowhere. I don't know. One thing I will say, I was very caught off guard how meh the racing was. After I walked the track and track walk, I was like, man, this is really good. It's got some really good sections. Kind of back to what we said, like on the most part, I've been very happy with the tracks this year for the most part. Don't know why that one didn't race well. Haven't sat down enough to think about it. Like, haven't watched like video playback other than me being on the floor shooting. But I was just like, man, this did not turn out how I thought it was going to.
Well, to be honest, Indy wasn't great racing. So we're kind of a 2 in a row. I'm in the mood for a good race again.
Yeah.
But maybe Seattle and the craziness that will come in Lumen Field will deliver just that. We'll be back in 7 days' time to discuss all that happens in Seattle, round 11 of 2025 Monster Energy AMA Supercross. This thing is really starting to go down to the wire, and we are going to be there every single step of the way. MXGP podcast show coming up this week on Vital MX as well as the hub for all of your weekly news. If you still need more content, because I know, like a lot of you, I'm just hungry for more and more and more, check out our post-race interviews and all that's on offer there. There's 45 minutes, and honestly, most of the rounds this year, the post-race interviews have been fairly meh and disappointing. But this week, I would argue that every single rider gave really good information about a particular topic. So I would recommend those this week. That should keep you busy until we speak again in 7 days' time. Thank you for watching and listening, and we will see you real soon.